Are we good?
You want to introduce, just say?
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to reconvene this meeting of the Public Education Commission. It is Thursday, August 15th, and it is 9:06 a.m. And we are here once again, continuing with our hearings on new applications. And our first applicant that we will hear from is Sun Mountain Community, but Commissioner Beck needs to take roll first. I need to make.
Commissioner Armijo? Not present. Commissioner Taylor? Here. Commissioner Brower? Here. Commissioner Manus?
I'm here.
Commissioner Burt?
Here.
Commissioner Kloschowicz? Not present. Commissioner Ingham? Here. Chair Gibson?
Here.
Vice Chair Carrillo? Here. Secretary Beck here. There is a quorum of 8.
And before we start, we are now moving to our discussion and possible action on new school applications. I wanted to note a few things regarding the record we will consider for each school. The full documentation of the new school applications is posted to the PEC website under the 2024 new applications page. For each school, the record of the application process that we will consider is 1, the application, which includes the executive summary, the application, the appendices, the facilities, and the 910B5 budget. Second, the peer review analysis. Uh, 3, input hearing transcript, and 4, final PED recommendations. I wanted to note a few other things. Number 1, we have uploaded into the PEC meeting folder the letters that went to each school with questions raised on their application. This will also be considered as part of the record. Number 2, the applicant's responses to the peer review has been uploaded as well. Number 3, in creating the analysis contemplated in NMAC 6.2.9.15, the PEC has asked CSD to identify in each written analysis or recommendation the participating CSD staff members, peer reviewers, and members of the applicant team by name, position, and contact information. The list of peer reviewers is uploaded to the PEC Drive for commissioners to review. This folder 4, 2024, new applicant folder. Next year, the chart of this information will be included in the documents listed above. And number 4, to prepare for a possible appeal hearing as outlined in NMAC 6.2.915, the PEC has asked CSD to identify a team lead for each new school application. It's knowledgeable that the contents of the recommendations and reports regarding that application and who can provide witness testimony if needed. My understanding that this person is Director Chavez. So good morning once again and welcome. Thank you for joining us again. This is Sun Mountain Community School. And we are, the first thing I'm going to ask, is there any tribal entity that wishes to offer comment? No? Okay. So then we are on to the public comment on the application.
We have 25 people signed up for public comment, 2 online and the rest in the room. We'll start with those in Zoom. We will ask you to please spell your first and last name. You'll have 2 minutes. I will start the timer when you are done spelling your name. Please wrap up when you hear the chimes. First, we have Rachel Dixon. I just need to find you. No, you went away. Rachel Dixon anymore. We will go to Carolyn Clark.
Hello, my name is Carolyn Clark, Carolyn Clark. I was a Waldorf parent for 16 years. My daughter went to 2 years of preschool, 2 years of kindergarten, and 12 years of the grades. I have worked in Santa Fe Public Schools for the last 7 years in various capacities. I'm a substitute. I have been a long-term substitute in libraries as a tutor, education assistant, and a teacher. I've been to most of the schools.
Get that a little louder, please.
Speak louder. Okay,
I'm here.
okay. Is this okay? Can you hear me?
Certainly is.
I have been in most of the schools in Santa Fe from pre-K to grade 12. I think I have a unique perspective. And I love what I do. I love moving around the school district. What I observe in many cases is that students are turned off to learning, and their parents and their guardians are concerned. And I've spoken with those parents and guardians. And recently, when the idea of a charter school that uses Waldorf methods came about, I started to talk about the possibility of this school. And these parents and guardians who did not know anything about Waldorf were very interested because they are desperate for their child to enjoy school. In one instance, the child started during the pandemic and hated school, and the parent wanted to know more about the Sun Mountain Community School, and I passed.
Okay, so is Bella Rachel Dixon?
Yes, I am here.
Okay.
I'm so sorry about the name confusion there.
Who's that first person?
She was like
I think she
mid-sentence.
ceded her time. She was done with her time and she ceded it.
Oh, okay.
That was how I interpreted that.
Oh, because it was hard for me to hear the beginning. I didn't hear that.
So Carolyn, if you're done talking, if you're not done talking, please raise your digital hand.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can still hear you, so continue. You have 23
Okay,
seconds to go.
I'm interested in the part that you didn't hear. I'd like to speak again on that.
Cindy.
Go ahead. Well, yeah, so can we have the court reporter read back the last thing she heard you say?
She said, I pass. And then she cut out. And so that's why you interpreted she was passing to the next speaker. But you said, I pass. So I don't know what you meant after.
My timer went off and I thought I was limited to 2 minutes.
You are, I gave you a little extra time because of the question with your volume.
You
Okay,
said-
was it
Ms. Clark,
the beginning or the end of what I said?
Ms. Clark, this is the reporter. You said in one instance, the child started during the pandemic and hated school, and the parent wanted to know more about the Sun Mountain Community School, and I passed. That was the last thing you said.
And that's all you heard me say?
Well, no, I heard your entire speech. I'm
Oh.
just reading the end of what you said.
Okay, I'm finished. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, next we have Rachel Dixon. Please spell your name.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
We are.
Okay, my name is RACHELDIXON. And I'm in favor of the Sun Mountain Community School. Shall I begin?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to say that I truly feel that Waldorf education, a Waldorf inspired education charter school would benefit the greater community of Santa Fe in ways that we can really only imagine. I am a 4th generation New Mexican. I'm raising my children here. I attended Santa Fe Public Schools through high school. And while I got a great education, going out into the world for college, I found there were holes for sure in my education. And now that I'm raising my children here, I've been fortunate enough to have my kids in at the previous Santa Fe Waldorf school for the younger elementary years. And I've just seen amazing positive benefits for my children and my family. And making this publicly available to our community in Santa Fe just feels like such an amazing opportunity. The divergence of, well, I just feel like it would be such an opportunity to see what we could do if we could make this education that has only previously been offered privately to those with means, to if we could offer it to people who in our community need it. So thank you so much for considering this. And I look forward to hearing what everyone says.
We'll go to the room next. I presume Nicholas Stinson is not here yet. Okay, so we'll go to the second person, Jill McCormack. You can come up here, please. Remember to spell your name for the court reporter, and then I'll start the.
Okay, is this on? Okay, my name is Jill McCormick, JILL-MCCOIMICK. I have been a Waldorf teacher for well over 30 years. I have 3 grandchildren who I went through the previous Waldorf school that was on campus here. They've done very well in life. They all have master's degrees. They're very interested in community. And I think that's why I want to talk about with a school such as this that offers a very rich community life that's very nurturing to children. They love to learn. The whole education is very much imbued with a love for learning. It's also a rich resource for parents because as children go through this developmental journey, it's academic, yes, and academics, yes. We also offer an insight into child growth and development for the parents that includes their social, emotional growth, and how they're working together as community to become stewards of the land, which has a ripple effect out into the whole world. When they go out into the world after going through this education, they know how to be responsible community members and responsible to partners and take responsibility for the world around them. So I think that's what I really want to offer is just that incredible love for learning. And everything is, the education is brought to life. It's all relevant to the child. It's not abstract. It's a real doing. There are so many children in our world right now who have incredible anxiety because life doesn't have purpose. And because their education is kind of separate from being a child. This education meets the child where they are. We need a world where children grow up with hope, with purpose, with love for learning. And that's what I have to say.
Next, we have Andrea Feigl.
Hold the microphone pretty far away from your mouth. Thank you.
If I don't drop anything, I can do this in 2 minutes. I'm Andrea Feigl, ANDREA FIEGEL. I've been a Waldorf parent since 2012. We started when my oldest was 3 and he's driving this summer. We were attracted to Waldorf first for its nature-based environment with lots and lots of time outdoors. Our family chose to avoid television and screen time for the kids for years, and we appreciated that the school's philosophy aligned with that. We placed great value on the arts and observed the integration of the arts into each day's lesson through the creative expression of their teachers' gifts of music, picture making, and storytelling. Santa Fe has an array of charter schools to be very proud of. The New Mexico School of the Arts is a jewel, and the master's program makes me wish I was in high school. The teens I know at those two high schools are former Santa Fe Waldorf classmates, and they are all thriving. There's ATC, Monte del Sol. We have 6 charter high schools, meaningful options from which to choose the best specialized environment and curriculum to support our teens. For Santa Fe's youngest learners, there are 2. Wanting to provide a nature and arts-based educational foundation for our kids, our best available option was a private school, and keeping them there represented a tremendous financial commitment. With the creation of the Sun Mountain Charter School, a Waldorf-based elementary education will be available to all Santa Fe families. The diversity we experienced at Santa Fe Waldorf was real, but this public charter school would embrace a full and fair representation of Santa Fe's children. I so value what we provided for our kids in Waldorf education. I'm asking you to make a Waldorf-based charter school available to all Santa Fe families. And I just want to add, the folks working to make the Sun Mountain Charter School a reality are some of the best of Santa Fe Waldorf. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have, and I love that you guys are stretching my abilities here. Tesha Gilroy? There's no medals for second.
It's okay. Hi, I'm Tisha Guillory. That's TESHAGUILLORY. I live and work in Santa Fe. I'm a physician, and I'm a mother of 2 daughters, age 6 and 9. I am in favor of the Sun Mountain Charter School. I think Waldorf-inspired education is very important. It's a type of education that's taught all over the world. It's well studied. It shows good outcomes both academically and socially, which I don't think most forms of education can show the social part. So I think it's very important. With that, I think the lack of screens is very important. There's been a lot of studies showing that those are detrimental, especially to very small children. So I think environments where children are learning outside and with books versus staring at a screen is very important for their educational and mental development. We were a part of the prior Santa Fe school, and one thing I did notice about it was that it had a really strong sense of community, both within the school, and I felt it connected me more to a community at large. And now being at another school, I feel that much more profoundly, that lack of community. So I think it would be great for Santa Fe to feel that sense of community with this type of school. And lastly, I wanted to say, well, I think it would be good for the community that's already here. I think it would be good at attracting people to Santa Fe. 5 years ago, I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, and was looking for a new position. I interviewed here, and I liked the position, but I'm not 100% sure I would have moved here if there had not been a Waldorf-style school for my children to attend. I interviewed here, and then I flew out a few weeks later to come and check that school out. I looked at no other schools in Santa Fe because that's how much I feel Waldorf school is very important to a community. And I think it's very sad that there is now no Waldorf-inspired school within the state of New Mexico, and it would be important and vital for our community to have. Thank you.
Next, we have Fletcher. I know I mispronounced it last time. Lathrop? Fletcher.
My name is Fletcher Lathrop, Fletcher Lathrop. I was a principal founder of the Santa Fe Waldorf School in 1983. Thank you.
Oh, please don't do that. Keep it away from your mouth, just like you were. I'm sorry, these
Oh.
are super sensitive mics. Thank you.
I've been a Waldorf teacher for 38 years. The last 20 teaching principally wood carving and sculpture at Santa Fe Waldorf School. Since its inception, one of my primary concerns has always been our inability to address the full Santa Fe community because of because we had to charge tuition. Uh, uh, I believe that this education is the finest educational system in the world, in my humble opinion. And it would be hard to exaggerate the benefits to the community, which I expect would result from the founding of a charter school, a publicly funded school open to all students in the Santa Fe area. Thank you very much for your consideration and your service.
Next, we have Renee Vargas.
Hi, my name's Rene Vargas, Renevargas. I'm here to support the Sun Mountain Community School. I'm a parent of a 10-year-old and a 4-year-old, Lucia and Teo, with my wife, who's a 10th generation New Mexican, Northern New Mexican, my kids being 11th now. I think it's really important for us to approve this school, honestly. I come from a different place. My parents are immigrants from Mexico. I was born and raised in Chicago, but in my time in traveling this country and living in different places, Santa Fe is the only place that, since Chicago, I've ever been able to call home. My kids and my wife, we've been involved with Waldorf, I would say, since the womb, because my wife has been a big proponent of the Waldorf system. And the only thing I see that system as is a way to be able to allow our kids to flourish and be themselves. My kids are absolutely wonderful community members, I would say. There isn't a place in this town that we don't go to where, regardless of age, like every individual looks at our kids and says, wow, you have amazing kids. You have some wonderful kids. And I can't take any kind of accountability for that. I owe that all to the Waldorf system. It's allowed us and given us a method to be able to raise our kids just in a way that I don't think our public school system can actually provide. And I do believe that if this becomes a part of this system, it will change things, and it will give people like myself and my kids an opportunity to flourish in this community. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Deb Midget? Midget?
That's one of the letters. Yep. Is that Jules? It's.
So for the court reporter, we're going to have some letters read by members of the audience. This is going to be read for Deb DEB, last name Midgette.
Thank you.
I would love to be there today, but I am working, and I am in full support of the Sun Mountain Community School.
Okay. Next is, Carl Johnson. KarlJohnson.
Dear Sun Mountain Charter School Initiative, I would love to be there tomorrow, but I am working. Best wishes on this important initiative.
Zoe. Angela Gordon, ANGELAGORDON.
I would love to be there, but I'm working tomorrow. I believe a Waldorf-inspired charter school would be a benefit to the Santa Fe community. 2 of my kids attended Santa Fe Waldorf School, and the teachers and curriculum are both fantastic and promote a love of learning.
Arena Pittman, Arina Pittman.
Greetings and thank you for your time. My name is Arina Pittman, and I am a state licensed early childhood teacher, general education, and SPED teacher, grades K through 12. I'm also a trained Waldorf teacher for grades 1 through 8 and a former Waldorf pre-K and kindergarten teacher. I've been a resident of Santa Fe County for the past 27 years. As a professional educator, I am writing to express my strong hope for the public Waldorf-inspired option for the Santa Fe community. Every day, I bring Waldorf approach and methodology to my teaching practices. When working with my class as a general teacher and when working as a SPED teacher with children with exceptionalities, I employ the unique practices of the Waldorf pedagogy and the wide spectrum of innovation that I have learned in that field of work. Every day I see the tremendous effect of this pedagogical approach has on children, all children, but notably on children with the IEP and early intervention services. I see children grow and blossom in response to the gentle rhythmical approach to the daily flow of instruction. I see children with speech and language impairments develop their speech in response to daily language-rich, media-free, human-centered environment rooted in chanting, rhythmical circle time, clapping, and melodic instruction. I work with a speech and language therapist, and we can see the difference that this approach makes. I see children respond with increased social and emotional skills as a result of carefully supported social life of the class, with daily group conversations, choral singing, dramatic play, and other Waldorf-inspired pedagogically informed activities aimed to create growth and development of a young community member and future leader.
Next is Sunny Rose Healy, SUNNY ROSE.
Sure.
HEALY.
Hello, I'm writing in support of the Waldorf-inspired charter Sun Mountain Community School in Santa Fe. I wish I could be at the meeting tomorrow. Unfortunately, I'm unable to attend due to work. As a mother of 2 children who attended Waldorf for many years and sharply feeling its loss in our lives and their learning, I want to express my full support of a Waldorf-inspired charter school in this community. The depth and breadth of the education my children received there set them up for excellence in their current school situation. What's missing, however, is the emphasis on the whole being that Waldorf philosophy provides and the type of curriculum I feel helps them grow and flourish in innumerable ways. I hope that my younger child will have the opportunity to return to a Waldorf school right here in Santa Fe, and that other children will have the opportunity to experience the gifts that Waldorf gifted to my older child. Sincerely, Sunny Rose Healy.
Next, we have Mikey Leach, MICKYLEACH.
Hi, Zoe. I want to let you know that I'm in support of the Charter Waldorf School. The education is developed on the image and understanding of the human being and speaks to the needs of humanity at this time. Thank you for all you and the Charter Committee are doing and have done. In appreciation, Mickey.
Next is John Rubottom, JOHN RUBOTTOM, and
I am unable to attend the meeting of the Public Education Commissioners on Thursday, August 15th, as I will be assisting in the childcare of my 2.5-year-old grandson while his parents are working. Please convey my strong support for the Sun Mountain Community application and the prospect of bringing Waldorf education to the Santa Fe community. My daughter is a K-12 Waldorf graduate and provides an excellent example to all who know her of the profound benefits of a Waldorf education. I encourage the commissioners to approve the Sun Mountain Community School application. The children of Santa Fe will greatly benefit from access to a Waldorf education.
Next is Angie Rubottom, ANGIE RUBOTOM.
Dear Public Education Commissioners, I would love to be at your meeting tomorrow to support the Sun Mountain Community School approval decision, but I'm taking care of my grandchild while his mother and father work. I have encouraged so many families in Santa Fe who have a longing for Waldorf-inspired education for their children. Even prior to the closing of the independent private Santa Fe Waldorf School, many of those families could not afford private school tuition, even with a generous financial aid package. So many young families struggle with the high cost of real estate in this area and with inflation of costs in general over the last 4 years. My daughter was blessed to be able to attend a Waldorf school in another state from K through 12th grade. She and many other students in her classes thrived, each in their own very individual ways. The community members surrounding the school, faculty, staff, students, parents, and neighbors were all enhanced by their participation in the school. To not have a Waldorf-inspired education option in Santa Fe after 40 years of its presence could be a factor in young families moving away from this region to seek a Waldorf education in another state. While I could go on and on about the many benefits of the Waldorf educational philosophy, I'm sure that those have been articulated in the charter application documents. I hope that your votes will be to approve the Sun Mountain Community School charter application.
Next, we have Irini Boutasi, EIRINIBOUTASI.
I would love to attend the meeting, but unfortunately I will be at work around that time. I'm highly supportive of the Waldorf Charter School. Waldorf teaching emphasis on imagination, creativity, community thinking, and beyond, all the wonderfulness of being a human. I am so looking forward to hearing the good news.
Next is Lauren Louie, LAURENLEWEY.
The philosophy of Waldorf really supported my son's development mentally, physically, and emotionally. After being in a prep school, which was basically all behind the computer and being exhausted because it was not supportive of the whole child's development, Waldorf for us was a godsend. It was a joy to watch the tension and stress leave their little bodies as learning centered around the whole child's wellness and development was put center. I hope you say yes to allowing this to move forward.
Next is Robin Machney, ROBYNMACHNEY.
Hello, we wish we could be at this decision-making meeting and just wanted to add our voices of support for this Waldorf-inspired charter school to benefit our Santa Fe community. In our technologically overloaded era, it is more important than ever to have options for schools that nurture imagination and support emotional development the way Waldorf education uniquely specializes. We hope our child will have the option to attend a Waldorf-inspired school in Santa Fe. Sincerely, Robin and Joe Machney.
Next, we have Rebecca Withers, REBECCAWITHERS.
Hello. A school with a Waldorf-based education curriculum is a community asset, as Waldorf education has for centuries championed educating children for the future, not merely to reach individual personal academic benchmarks, but also to be active, contributing members of society. Waldorf education is dedicated to improving communities and interpersonal connections by raising children to be good citizens, actively engaged in uplifting their communities. All best, Rebecca Withers.
Next is Amy Pine, AMYPINE.
I would love to join to show my support to this initiative, but I'll be working. Santa Fe needs a Waldorf-inspired school option to support our children and families. We need other perspectives to our current educational models, and we just do not have that in Santa Fe right now. With kindness, Amy Pine.
Next is Susie George, SUSIEGEORGE.
I cannot attend the decision-making meeting for the Sun Mountain Community School because I am working. However, I want to show my support as a Santa Fe community member. Our society, both locally and beyond, is becoming more screen addicted than ever. The impact this has on the developing child is great, and there is much research to back this claim. Many of the school options here in Santa Fe use screen time more than necessary, and in my opinion, unhealthfully, in place of other modes of learning like outdoor learning, relational learning with the teacher, group problem solving, free imaginative rendering, integrative movement activities, etc. The Sun Mountain Community School, whose screen time use in classroom learning would consciously be minimal, would be an antidote to our society's mass addiction and be a sanctuary where children can be their most imaginative, free-thinking selves. It also will be a space where nature and the outdoors will be an integral part of the curriculum and school culture. Don't we want to be bringing free-thinking, full, imaginative, socially intelligent humans into this world who actually notice and care for their environment? I hope so, and this is why I support the Sun Mountain Community School, because its mission would ultimately be just that. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Susie George.
Next, we have Adrienne Harper, ADRIENNEHARPER.
Good morning. I regret that I am unable to attend the charter hearing this morning, but want to express my support for a Waldorf-inspired charter school here in Santa Fe. We attended the Santa Fe Waldorf School until it closed. Since that time, we have struggled to find the right school fit for our daughter. The Waldorf curriculum is unique, and we are missing having the option for that purposefully patient approach to child education. We really value how Waldorf education protects and celebrates childhood. I think it would be an incredible offering to have a charter Waldorf school here, as I know the tuition of private model prevented families from attending who would otherwise opt for this style of education for their child. It was becoming a real struggle for us as well. Please approve the Waldorf-inspired charter school. Thank you, Adrienne Harper.
Next, we have Matt Navar, maybe? Niver?
My name is Matt Niver. It's MattNaivar. I'm affectionately known in the Waldorf community as Uncle Matt. I'm Uncle Matt to Zali and Hima Estes, who are previous Waldorf students. Unfortunately, the school closed, or they'd still be there. I know that moving here from Texas, their parents, and eventually myself, I know that the Waldorf being here was a huge draw and a big reason why they moved here at all. Just kind of being an outsider, I'm able to say, after having attended festivals, community gatherings at the campus, field trips, getting to know the teachers and the other parents, that it's an awesome school. And if it doesn't continue, I'm just really glad that they got that in their lives. Thank you.
Jennifer Gutierrez.
Jennifer Gutierrez, JenniferGutierrez. I have a 5-year-old daughter who attended Waldorf, the previous Santa Fe Waldorf, from age 3 till last year when they closed. I actually work at the school too, and if it wasn't for that reason, I wouldn't be able to afford the tuition. But because I was an employee, my daughter was able to attend for free, and the benefits that that she got are just, you could see it even from the first day. And now she's in public school and she is thriving at El Dorado Public School. But it is much in part because she got this early education at Waldorf. And although we do love the school that she is in now, she is in kindergarten, and we just found out that she has to get a Chromebook, which to me was very strange because a 5-year-old with a computer doesn't make sense to me. But I understand that they need to learn because this is where our society is going to, but I don't understand why it has to be at 5 years old. They should be outdoors playing. They shouldn't be on at a desk. They should be circle time, story time, and all these things. Waldorf has proven doing all these things, Waldorf has proven that kids can learn to read by not sitting at a desk.
Okay. Nicholas Stinson.
Hi, thanks again for your time and efforts on both sides of the situation. My name is Nicholas Stinson. Me and my child here moved here from the.
Spell your last name,
Sure.
correct, please.
Stinson. We moved here from Atlanta, Georgia, in large part because there was a Waldorf. We've been attending Waldorf in Atlanta. It was heartbreaking when it closed. And again, I think, as I said when I spoke earlier, I'm really excited to see what can happen when Waldorf pedagogy worldview has to meet and ground itself with the public education system. I think it's best for both sides, best for Waldorf to be a little bit more grounded and more engaged with the actual practical day-to-day realities of the world as it is now, not as it was 100 years ago when Steiner founded the philosophy. I also look forward to helping out on the financing, if this is approved, to making sure that the fiscal framework is there so that the school can continue and be a valued part of the community for a long time. I speak as a former business owner and the current market manager for the Santa Fe Farmers Market. Anyway, thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Reporter, again, just reminding, keep the mic away from your mouth. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. That concludes public comment.
If there is audio, I'm not hearing it.
Debating whether or not there was anybody else signed up, and there was nobody else signed up for.
Let me see. Can I have a question for
School.
Missy?
Sorry.
There's nobody else signed up for public comment for this school. There are people waiting for Sacramento, but they will be heard at 1.
Hours early. A question for Missy. I have a question for you, Missy. So over the last 2.5 years, I don't recall having these kinds of sound problems. I recall having a mic like this available there or there, where our reporter was much better able to hear, and we were much better able to hear because everyone is, if they're soft-spoken, it's like there's always a problem with volume. And I'm just curious about that because it's been ongoing yesterday and so far today.
Can we save those questions for? No. Yeah. Thanks. Okay. We are now on to the 20 minutes for the applicant team. So welcome once again. Remind to the first, if you introduce the team, spell your name, for the record, and then you don't have to do that as you continue to talk.
Missy, can you pull up our presentation? While she's pulling it up, I'll go ahead and introduce our team. Good morning, and thank you once again for giving us the opportunity to present in front of you. To my left is Brianna Bosler. Her last name is spelled Bassler. She is our legal expert. She's an attorney and our legal expert on our team. I am Jaita Sani. My last name is spelled S as in Sam, A-H, N as in Nancy, I as in Irene. I'm the facilities expert on our team. To my right is Zoe Wilcox, W-I-L-C-O-X. She is our academic team lead expert on our team. And to Zoe's right is Jessica Wireman, W-I-R-E-M-A-N. Jessica is our budget expert. These are the core members of our team. We were supported, as we mentioned in the community hearing, by 7 additional educators, many of whom are now teaching in the public school system, and 4 of whom are licensed, PED licensed.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to be with you again. My name is Zoe Wilcox, and I was the head writer on the application. And thank you for your dedication to offering school choice in New Mexico. We'll dive right into slide number 2, please, because we have a lot of questions you have presented to us that we would like to address. We had some lingering questions at the end of our hearing last time that we're going to dive into. The first is, given our unique model, why does the applicant believe that the state assessments we chose are the most appropriate for the school, and how we chose them? In the end, we SMCS in our application process, because we have committed to aligning Waldorf-inspired curriculum to state standards, we believe that the choice of state-supported interim assessments, IMASA, would be the quickest track to assure that alignment as we are getting started. Secondly, we have to be honest, we were being very careful with our budget. And as you know, IMASA is free. The state option is free. I do think it's very interesting that you brought this question up, as it was discussed and debated continually through our application process. We had one on our education team. She actually took the different tests to see the differences. She said she got one wrong on the 3rd grade test. But I had multiple conversations with Gregory Howell. He is the client service director for Cognia. He goes around the state and teaches teachers how to implement tests. We spoke several times regarding which test to use for our school. And at the end, he said, you know, you just got to go and talk with Montessori of the Rio Grande, that had a school there, as they are doing as close to what you are doing as anyone in the state. They also use a developmental method in Montessori that's relatively similar to ours. So that started a warm relationship between me and Deborah Henwood. And many of our things in our application, our development of our school proposal, came out of our relationship. They use iStation beyond 2nd grade to keep that, to keep it consistent and to best assess student progress from early grades on. We originally had that in our application, and in an 11th hour debate, we said, let's start with what the state proposes, with the agreement that we would take implementation year to further look into those tests. So that was our process. Next slide, please.
The PECU also wanted to hear about our outreach outside the previous Waldorf school community. And we feel that our outreach efforts were broad and diverse. Yes, we had surveys, but we did not rely solely on our surveys for outreach. Santa Fe is a word of mouth town, which is why our conversations at our outreach booths were also very significant. There were an estimated 160 of them at 3 outreach booths through the 87507 and 87501 area codes. 100% of these people were not previously enrolled in the previous school. Of the 100 conversations just at the Santa Fe Farmers Market, 21 of them signed up to hear more information as we progressed. So that means as we were talking to people of all ages, old people, you know, college students and family members, 1 out of 5 of them wanted yet another email in their email server to, as long as it told them if we were moving closer to a charter school or not. We had 115 responses to our surveys, 140 responses to our name vote. These were distributed to the former school email list. They were also distributed in our outreach booths, Wise Fool Community email list, one of our partners, and La Cienega Community Breakfast. We also have a continued outreach plan that serves the broader public of Santa Fe in our application, page 20 to 22 and 209 to 213. Next slide, please. We met with 17 representatives from local and national organizations, and from those, we gained articulated support and partnership from many of them. There are several letters in our application from many of these organizations, and they are listed there, including a lump sum of several community, local, and public schools. Next slide, please. The PEC also asked us to be more specific on our outreach and communication with local tribes. So we reached out to Cochiti Tribe in April 2024. We emailed the principal, Molly Guruli. We emailed the Pohaki Tribe, Cristal Suazo, also in April 2024. And we had a connection at the Tasuke Tribe, and we reached out to that person who acted as a bridge to us, to the Tasuke Tribe, also in April 2024. Our intention of that was to notify these tribes of our proposed school. Personal conversations with a tribal member who has been involved with our community for years informed us that there is a general momentum to keeping tribal students in tribal schools. However, they said that they are open on a one-on-one basis to meet individual students with a school that is appropriate for that student. So our intention in reaching out to these tribes was one of respect, to respect the autonomy for them to make their own decision, to be welcoming and warm and let them know what we're doing. And when they said no thanks, we will just then be welcoming and responsive to these 3 communities as we proceed. Next slide. We are also excited to inform you, since we've last met, we have our 5 board members for our Board of Finances ready to go. They are Jaita Sahi, 15 years of project management, financial planning, architectural design, and planning in the private sector, and over 9 years of project management, financial planning, and faculties management in the public sector. We have Jessica Wireman, who has 18 years of small business management, is a restaurateur, and a county commissioner's advisory board member. We have Nicholas Stinson, the farmer's market manager here in Santa Fe, a restaurateur for 15 years, and an expert in finance, business management, and community outreach. We have David Burling, board president experience in governance, the nonprofit director, entrepreneur, investor, and 14 years experience as a law practitioner and in finances. And we have Mary Freitas. Her experience comes from her involvement in government, administration, as a college guidance counselor, and in academics. And we continue our outreach and vetting additional board members and interested people who want to be involved in this exciting new endeavor. The interest and enthusiasm in our community is palpable. Next slide, please. We'd also like to take this opportunity to address the letter from the CSD to the commissioners on our peer review analysis. In the world of academics, we ask that you see our official response to the peer review and the presentation that we gave in our July community input hearing. We repeat there in writing and verbally over and over that we are committed to aligning with New Mexico educational and inclusiveness standards. We address some, brought clarity to some misunderstandings, and we are very confident in our team's ability to run a successful and value-added New Mexico public school, and we are honored to be a part of the public school system. Our founding team went through hundreds of Common Core standards line by line that resulted in hundreds of pages of attachments to ensure that we were knowledgeable of and following these standards. We also have specific plans of how we will continue this work. The evaluation back and forth process has also given us knowledge of where to grow and learn, and we continue to do that. We feel that our organizational framework is solid, and we are confident that we will run a successful charter school within our projected budget. We have specifically identified board members with a breadth and depth of financial experience to oversee our budget. Next slide. And we would like to also address a concern by the CSD about our community support. We feel that we have demonstrated incredible community support. We have the 25 people who spoke here today, in addition to 49 letters of support that came in, over 40 speakers that showed up to our community input hearing. They spoke for over an hour and a half. 81 town hall member meeting attendees, 160 community conversations that took place in 115 survey takers, 140 charter school name voters, and 17 potential community partners. Next slide, please. So of the 46 people who attended our community input hearing, you heard from families interested in enrolling their children at SMCS who were part of the private previous school and those who were not. Testimonials were heard from alumni families regarding the effectiveness of their children's Waldorf education. They spoke directly to the concerns of academic rigor, literacy skills, and college and career readiness. You heard from board members interested in serving on the SMCS school board. Experienced educators who spoke to the effectiveness of their Waldorf teaching tools in their current public school classrooms. Families who spoke to the financial sacrifices they made to provide their children with a Waldorf education. And most importantly, you heard from students who spoke with confidence and articulation and who were clearly community-minded. Of these hundreds of participants in our outreach campaign, they are members of our broad Santa Fe community, and their voices, needs, and support count. Next slide, please. So we are left as the founding team to wonder why these voices felt discounted. And so we think that we need just to take a little look into what is the community that supports Waldorf education in Santa Fe. They are economically diverse. They are ethnically and socially diverse, and they come from a variety of living situations. It includes single parent households, children living with grandparents, separate households with two parents, two-parent households, rural households, working parents, stay-at-home parents, immigrant children, and refugees. And most importantly, as you have heard from many of our community members, it is a community with immense potential to grow. As one of our supporters said in her letter, this is not an elitist education, but one of inclusion. Next slide, please. The common thread among all these community members is simply their belief in this system of education. And what they are not is across the board rich. They were certainly not rich enough to maintain a private school in Santa Fe. This is the economic diversity of the Santa Fe the previous Waldorf school, their families, and this is in our application. The numbers of families requesting financial aid steadily increased every year. By spring of 2022, 90% of families requested and/or received financial aid. Over 50% of the student population received it. 32 students out of 216 had full tuition remission because at least one of their parents had a full-time faculty or staff member. And that also included sacrifice, as starting salaries for Santa Fe Waldorf school teachers began $10,000 less than starting salaries as a public school teacher. And there were 8 high school students receiving full scholarships designed to meet dedicated students whose parents could not afford the tuition. So the former school was always hanging on by a thread by tuition assistance and fundraising. The common thread among that group was sacrifice to make this choice for a Waldorf-inspired education. And the economic capacity of our 115 survey takers also reflect those same numbers. Oh, thank you. Now, 27% of our survey takers said they would not consider sending their child to a private school, but as we looked further into it, the rest, the 73%, weren't exactly honest with themselves, as they said they would consider sending their child to a private Waldorf school. However, only 10% of them, in a further question on how much they could actually afford a private school tuition. The rest all said their enrollment was contingent on significant financial assistance. Some said, yes, they would send it to a private school, and how much can you pay? $0. That is not a private school tuition. That is the public sector. This aligns with the number of survey takers who were actually sending their children to private schools when they took the survey. 7 of 115, 6%, when they listed where their children were going to school, were going to private sector. So the vast majority of the families that took our survey were attending private schools. Public schools, sorry. Thank you. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the ethnic diversity of the Waldorf community in Santa Fe. Who supports the Sun Mountain Community School? Next slide. This is a letter from a member of our community, from a Native American family. She says, the Waldorf model was originally conceived and implemented for children of factory workers. This is not an elitist education, but one of inclusion. One of the basic tenets of Waldorf is that children of diverse cultural and economic backgrounds be schooled together. During my involvement with the school, the student body included Hispanic, African American, Asian, and Native American students, of which my son was one. Thank you very much. We're going to move on. Next slide. This is a member of our community, a Mexican-American member of our community who wants her 2 children to attend the school. This member is a member of our community who brags about her 2 Hispanic boys. Oops, yes, I'm doing it here, but I forget to tell you, Missy. Who wants Waldorf education for all students. Next slide, Adriana Hershey. This is a Mexican immigrant member of our community who has 2 children. She is waiting to sign up for Sun Mountain Community School. Next slide. Dina Jensen says that their daughter attended Waldorf only because she received the Renaissance Scholarship, which covered her full tuition. And she would not have been able to access this education without her scholarship, and it was a game changer for her daughter. Next slide, please. And this student actually is from a family that could afford full tuition. And she is 20 years old, and she is now so passionate about Waldorf education that she is becoming a teacher and wants to specialize in special education. And she says, as a 20-year-old, she took time out to write you a 4-page letter and says everyone should be able to send their children to Waldorf schools if they so choose. Next slide, 30 seconds. These voices count and these voices matter. Next slide, please. There is something special in the Waldorf student. So what is it? If you haven't experienced it, it's easy to confuse for the privilege of economic status or being a part of the ethnic majority. But our community support shows the privilege is not that. The privilege is the education itself. Final slide. So voting yes to the Sun Mountain Community School brings the gift of a Waldorf-inspired education to students throughout the broad and diverse Santa Fe student community. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming to the hearing. Thank you for your presentation, Team Sun Mountain. I'm first going to go through the timeline of this process just to remind everybody how we got to where we are today. In January, the school submitted a notice of intent to the department, and this year at the Public Education Commission's request, Ms. Brown and I conducted a NOI review and provided feedback. Our message was the same to all applicants. Respond to all indicators, no shame in postponing or reapplying next year. Typically, we've had schools pull out of the process and come back. I don't know that we've had that many that were voted by the PEC and then come back, but during this process, before we get to the hearing, we have had several. That didn't happen this year with any of the applicants. The applicants were submitted on time on June 1st. This application was fully responded to in terms of each of the, there was a response to each of the indicators. And then a team of peer reviewers dug deep and into the application, reviewing every part of it thoroughly, and conducted a capacity interview, and then wrote this all up in the preliminary analysis, which was sent to PEC and the applicants on June 28th. On July 8th, the Waldorf team submitted a response to the peer analysis, and it was emailed to the PEC. We held the community input hearing in this very hall on July 10th, and then PEC sent a letter on July 19th. Today, we learned a lot of new information based on the questions that the PEC asked of the school. CSD sent a final recommendation both to the school and to the PEC on August 2nd. When we reviewed the response to the peer analysis, there was 68 pages
of a rebuttal to what the peers had written. Some was acknowledging a typo, for example, using WIDA for SPED students. We know that that's for ELs. Or in some places, the applicant team expanded on their plans as they also articulated today. And at one point, critiquing nomenclature that the peer review team used, operations manager saying that they've proposed an operations director, but then on page 188, the application lists an operations manager. And we could go back and forth with this kind of, they said this, no, they said this, oh yes, actually it was there. But I didn't choose to get into that level of detail when I wrote the recommendation to the PEC. Our recommendation concluded that the application was inadequate for the reasons described in the recommendation for denial, that the application met none of the criteria for the academic program, and alignment to the New Mexico Common Core standards, assessment, supports for ELs, for students with IEPs. And in reading the application as submitted, there was a comment made by the peer reviewers that really struck me. And it was that rather than it seeming that the applicants were looking at the New Mexico Common Core standards to see how Waldorf fit in, it was the other way around, that they were looking at the Waldorf standards to see how the New Mexico Common Core standards would fit in. That really stuck with me as I was considering this application. I also maintained a concern about the Waldorf approach fitting into the public school framework. There will be a little bit more about that here in a minute. And how the application, how that framework would fit. Few of the indicators for the financial framework met or approached criteria, and in most of the organizational framework, they were rated as approaching. There was concern that there was little prospective parents reflecting the diversity of Santa Fe, although I must say that the team has done a really excellent job today of organizing supporters and pointing out how there are supporters of the school that are a little bit more diverse and that represent prospective parents. One of the speakers today talked about how becoming a public school might change this school, and I just sort of, I thought that was very insightful. That is true, for better or for worse, and I've worked with charter schools for the past 20 years. I've seen a huge shift in the expectations for charter schools to fit more closely into the public education model. And I feel like that would be a bit of a struggle. I do think, should PEC make the decision to consider some of the shifts in the plan, because I think that what I've heard is what we've seen in the application and what we've heard in the presentations, and certainly today, I feel like this application team has worked really hard on all parts of the application process. And today is a testament for this, and has listened to feedback. So good luck, PEC members, in making the decision. I think this is a really tough, because what was written might vary from what we are hearing and seeing today. Thank you.
Thank you. And we're going to take a 10-minute break.
Okay, thank you. The bathroom is really far.
Okay. Thank you very much once again. Commissioners, Commissioner Beck?
Thank you for those responses. That was awesome, that you just took it piece by piece and, did that. That was great. Answered a lot of questions, very honestly. The concern I have is probably the concern I've had before. And I appreciate what you said about, all the different areas and the diversity and all the interviews and all that. The concern I had is this was almost a replay of the community input hearing. It seemed like everybody that came forward had a connection with the old Waldorf school. I was hoping to hear from businesses, different organizations, people in the community that had no contact with the Waldorf school, or were like me, where I had to look it up on the internet to know what a Waldorf education was. I had no clue. I taught IB for 13 years. I know what that is. I barely know Montessori, and I had no idea about Waldorf. So my concern is just the same. It's not a critical concern, but it's a concern that what I wouldn't want to see is the private Waldorf community become the public Waldorf community. That's what I was hoping. I was hoping I would see a different reflection on that. And I don't know who quoted this one, but I'm for quotes, but actions speak louder than words. And I was hoping to see the action of other people outside the Waldorf community. But I appreciate greatly you responding as you did to those questions. Thank you.
So I'll be brief. I do appreciate the fact that you responded to the concerns with care and lots of thought. So I'm of the belief that first of all, I don't think that there were any major shifts in what you've presented today and what your application presented. All right. So and I think it's perfectly acceptable to clarify positions that you have in the application today. So I think that that was wise of you, and I accept that as just, hey, we're just kind of clarifying our position in these areas. So that's fine. I don't think you could ever walk into in an application before school has started. I don't think you can ever anticipate everything, and explain it well enough that everybody will understand. So I'm fully on board with what you guys presented today. So thank you. In regards to what Commissioner Beck talked about, a little bit about the diversity and the fact that the most of the respondents have been former Waldorf affiliate, have had a former affiliation with the former Waldorf school. I believe that that's naturally going to be the case because those people that have been at the Waldorf school are fully vested, and they want it to continue. So I think that's fine. I do echo the concern that that should be on your to-do list in an implementation year, to really get after that aspect and that dynamic. So like I said, I really appreciate what you've presented today and looking forward to the rest of the conversation. So thank you.
Commissioner Gibson, may I just do a quick response to Commissioner Taylor? Sure. I think it's actually a response to all. Although I didn't read it in my presentation, on each of their slides, it quoted the page number in our application from which that information came. And I just wanted to express that. Thank you.
Thanks. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you talk to me a little bit about what your plan is to hire the head administrator of the school?
So we have been, am I too close? Am I too far? Okay. As we mentioned in our slide, we have 5 committed members, board members ready to go. So our first order of business will be to become an approved board of finance. And we are well aware that 5 board members is not enough to run a charter school, but it is enough to become an approved board of finance. So that's step 1. We have been having soft conversations with several candidates that we are either personally connected to or have had a history at the former school or from the networks of people at the former school. We have not been able to make anybody any offers, but we have been networking and having conversations. So we do have a long list. Commissioner Carrillo, I really appreciate your suggestion to look out of state. So we have been reaching out to other state chartered Waldorf schools in other states for recommendations because there can be sometimes a lot of movement between schools. So as part of the steps leading up to becoming a board of finance, I personally am keeping a list and having multiple conversations with community members and interested parties in hiring a head of school. That doesn't give you a specific strategic plan, but without an approval, that was the best that I could do.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Is there, did you all think about trying to get a proposed head administrator when you started the application? The one thing I noticed is when we've had schools that start with a board and without the proposed head administrator as part of that application process, that I've noticed more transition, a little bit more shaky turmoil and more difficult to have someone stay for a long time because they're not a part of your founding team. So can you talk a little bit about what inspired you guys to go ahead and get started and do the board first and
yes,
that concern?
In maybe the first charter school training, what we heard was, while what you just said is true, and we've observed it ourselves in our community, it is kind of nebulous for the person who is running the school to then go find their bosses, because the board is the head administrator's boss. So we wrote the application, and this was excellent advice from Missy. Write it as if you are not going to be the people running it, as if this is a blueprint, and you hand it to a different set of people, and they will be able to read it and run it. And from an architectural background, this is what we do. Architects don't build buildings, we design them. We produce a set of drawings that we hand to a totally different person who we've never met before, and they are supposed to take it and build this exactly the way we've envisioned it. So that was my approach as the application manager, and the team felt comfortable with that approach. That is why we took this approach. We wrote it as if we were not the ones who are going to be running it. Obviously, we're not going to leave the ship because we've invested so much energy into it. But the reason we made the choice we did was because we didn't want the head administrator to then go out and hire their bosses. We wanted the bosses to hire the head administrator. Does that speak to your question?
Yeah, definitely. And I will say, so I know it's in many industries that oftentimes you'll hear like, oh, that they weren't even teachers and they did this, and like just you saying that you're an architect and how you're able to translate is one of the reasons why I firmly believe lots of people outside education should be involved in education, because I think sometimes you get teachers who are so in their heads and they know exactly how to do it that it's hard to translate it to paper. So that actually is something that I will say with this application that once again, it is great advice from Missy, because it is what I look for, of like, if everybody here disappears, what we have in black and white is what we have to go off, and it needs to be succinct, clear, but also complex and like detailed, right, at the same time. And I do think your application was. I'm really not too concerned about the curriculum alignment. I've gone through scope and sequence work where you have a curriculum and you have standards and you figure out how to do a scope and sequence where you align all those things. I'm not worried that, so I'm not concerned about that part. And I actually do love the idea of having different, unique, innovative ways of learning provided to the community. So I do think your school fits in that. My concern is going to be echoed by the other what the other commissioners already said. I am really concerned. I think there's a couple. I think there's a practical part of it, which what Commissioner Taylor said and Commissioner Beck said was like, if I could have heard from several families who said we didn't even know about the school, or we knew about the school and never could have gone to it. But if this was a public school, we could. If I could have heard from some of those folks, it would have helped a lot. Because for me, I think there's a little bit more of the spirit of a charter school that I do care deeply about, the health of the sector. And I am concerned about the optics of looking like we can take a private school and make it a public school. And then the kids who were in the private school now get public school education with the same fund, you know? And so it's not necessarily, I know that's not, your intention is to go full blown. You're going to follow every state standard. You're going to follow all the state requirements. You're going to really take the heart of being it. But my concern is more for the broader view of when people look at how is New Mexico doing charters, and it's like, oh, they're taking private schools and making them public. And so being able to like have some data behind me to combat that would have been very helpful to kind of lower that and be like, nope, they actually like, they did it the way in which I would have expected. And they have all these new folks coming in and they want these new folks that didn't have access. They did the work already to show you have all the extra people to include into the community. So that's still I would say my biggest concern. And I know you've done a lot of work to try to show how you've tried to do that. I think it's just like, to me, it's like it's the tip of the iceberg is where I see what that could have been. So that's gonna, I'm open, I'm listening to other commissioners today. But that's my biggest concern and what I'm kind of grappling with as someone who cares deeply about the charter sector and the health of the community and the misconceptions that we already have to always fight against with charter schools. Charter schools are public schools, right? When I always hear it, like, it always just gives me a little bit of like grievance inside me when I hear, oh, public schools and charter schools. What? No, charter schools are public schools. It's traditional schools and charter schools, but they're all public, right? So we already have like the misconceptions that are rampant in the charter community, that sometimes the national world, like national charter sector influences our state and how people perceive it. A lot of New Mexicans think that charter schools are tuition based, right? And so they're like, wait, I didn't realize charter schools are public here, you know? And so there's all these misconceptions that we have to care about because it matters to our charter communities. And so that's what's going through my mind is I'm trying to like get to, like, I like the idea. I think I imagine the support being, you have support already, so I imagine it can be expanded. I believe that. I just don't have it behind me to feel like I'm such a data. I love that's why I like the black and white writing that you had, because it was good, detailed, right? But I didn't have the black and white data behind me to feel super confident in talking to folks about like, no, it's not just a private school coming to a charter. That's not what's happening. This is all the, like, this is actually the spirit of charters is to provide access to everybody, right? And I don't know if I can like fight that fight right now with what I have. So I'm going to be listening and considering, but that's what's blocking me a little bit right now.
Commissioner Carrillo and then Commissioner Brower.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Burt. I appreciate so much always learning from you and some of the things you have to say. Like the protection of the charter community and, you know, are we just taking it private and turning it to public? You know, I don't get the sense that you're just saying, hey, now we'll have public money so we can do whatever and we can run our thing. I think it's much, much deeper. And, but I appreciate the comments very much. The biggest concern I have And to me, it's not a deal breaker even slightly. It's a concern that I know can be met. And that's the diversity and inclusion piece, right? And while I respect and understand the steps that you took, to me, not even clearly enough. And so, but there's ways to do that. And there's ways to do that in an implementation year. How to reach out to these parts of the community much more aggressively so they understand what it is you're offering. And they know their kids best. So how this can really be something that, oh my gosh, this is a place my kid will thrive. You know, it's like the kids that are at the master's program. They're there because they're on a college prep track and it's what they wanted, they wouldn't be there. The kids that are at MSA, they're there because that's the track that they're inspired by their love for the arts. And I remember when that school opened, and even when I was on the board for Santa Fe Public, there was a lot of people that were very upset with that school opening because it's like, we have a great program. Why can't these are great program? It's like nobody in the state could do what they're doing, right? No one could offer these kids what they offer. No one in the state could probably offer what Ames, which is the Albuquerque Institute for Math and Science, offers, that kind of rigor. So let's learn, let's respect the need and diversity for choice for parents and families, right? I think that that piece can be met. One of the things I wrote down that I think might guide what other things I have to say based on the application and recommendation from CS is, if you build it, they will come. We've seen that here. There's a reason that the magnet school, the IB Magnet Nelson Mandela School, is so successful in Santa Fe is because we took a really big risk to open an IB Magnet. Okay, when Joel was the super, and was the vote 5-0? No. Were there always a few people on the board that were just waiting to close it because they thought it was a wealthy white education? Yeah. You know, they were opposed to the IB program and to that magnet. They said there's other things we need to do. Mandela's thriving, right? ATC, a charter school within the district, consistently #2 in the state, behind Ames, right? As best school in the state. NMSA, one of the highest performing schools in the state, catering to a specific needs for specific kids and families. And I'm very, and Tisha, who I think left, but Tisha, Matt, and Nicholas all spoke of coming to Santa Fe for a Waldorf school. Okay? I grew up around people in LA whose kids went to Highland Hall, which was a Waldorf. No way, seriously? You know the Lamberts, Cliff and Suzanne? No way. Oh my gosh. Oh, Remy and Murray, they're just, anyway, so, oh my gosh. Anyway, so I have experience with Waldorf and I love Waldorf education. And if you build it, they will come. I think I mentioned this to Tim. We're only allowed to talk to a few others because of the Open Meetings Act and rolling quorums. And I said, you mark my words. So I said, I'll even take you to the bull ring if it doesn't happen. At least 5 families are going to move here within a year and they find out there's a public charter school in Santa Fe.
You didn't say anything about the bull.
Oh, forget that then. So I believe at least 5 families will move to Santa Fe because we have a public Waldorf. Because let's face it, money, especially these days, is it's just a huge hurdle for people. And when I look at money and I look at the demise of your school before, a lot of it had to do with money. Okay, and I think I wrote down here, your generosity was not sustainable financially. And it doesn't matter how much you want to give and how much this family says, my kid's going to thrive here, I really want them to go here. There's only so much you can give away and still be able to operate a business. And I look at things, mostly I look at things from private sector sensibility. And, you know, so, and I think this is like the greatest opportunity ever because so many of those things you're saddled with as a private school operator, we're doing, or CSD is doing, or it's required by state. There's all sorts of things, there's all sorts of levers you can pull and departments that are there to help you. And I'm so glad you have a board in place right now. And I'm so glad that we have Missy, who does the most amazing job ever training board members, right? Because that's critical. The minute your board starts to go at an eddy down the hole, and how many times have we seen that happen? So I'm thrilled that you have enough for the Board of Finance right now. And I mentioned this to Tim, I'd never thought of it that way. You hire the head administrator. It's, why have them, what you were talking about in terms of them finding the board. And your analogy of the architect. And I wrote that down, architect analogy. I thought that was great. Because so often what happens is we have the founder is the one that gets the ball rolling on all levels. And they're the ones that also help recruit the board. So really sometimes there can be a borderline unprofessional, I'll say, relationship because of the friendships and or nepotism that exists between founders and boards. And I like this idea that you're going to go and do a search for the right person. And I really do think, who wouldn't want to live in Santa Fe? Has anyone been outside this week? I mean, it's like the greatest place ever. Now we have Indian Market. I really think that you're going to have a lot of people biting at the apple if you're approved. And it's out there in the education world and the Waldorf world that you're looking for a head administrator. I mean, it's kind of clear where I'm going with all of this. The concerns that the economic, I talked about that, financial roadblocks, talked about that. I mean, I remember actually I don't know, did you guys have a chance to read that ridiculous editorial today in the New Mexican? They said to vote no. They said the commission should not approve this charter. And, you gotta know, you gotta take it with a grain of salt because the New Mexican has never met a charter they didn't like. They have the old trope that we're stealing kids and from districts and money from districts. That's so not the case because you're going to create a public school. And I love the comments about you're creating kids that, yeah, they're going to be academically proficient, but the thing that they're going to provide the community is beyond sense of self and sense of community. And the kids that I know that have been through Waldorf, I know Story. I'm so sorry that Melissa couldn't be here today. What a remarkable young person, right? And I know Remy and Nure, and just the kind of kids that Waldorf, when it's done correctly, fosters. Okay, so okay, I'm just looking at my notes here because I don't want to miss anything. The hurdles that you have, I think, are definitely biggest one for the diversity piece, but can all be handled in the implementation year. You said it best, Commissioner Taylor. It's are you doing the tapping finger thing? You said it best, Commissioner Taylor. Okay, you can't. I'm entertaining myself too. You can't expect everyone to knock everything out of the park in the original application. It just doesn't happen. And if it did happen, that means something's wrong with the rigor of our application, right? This needs to be a super rigorous process. We need to rake you over the coals and find out what's what. These are taxpayer dollars and these are our kids, and you are stewards of both. So it's us having an incredible amount of trust in what you're doing. And the other thing I'm going to say, I'm going to close on and say probably a possible Columbian moment is look at who we've approved in the past, and even schools that we brought into the state charter system that were chartered by their local districts. And our sense of empathy and compassion for where they were, where they thought they could be, and we approved them. And then there's 4 schools, specifically that I'm thinking of where their proficiency scores and performance on pretty much all levels were horrible. But we approved them. We gave these schools a chance and are giving them a chance right now. And they weren't nearly as prepared as you are on any level, on finance, on leadership, on even having a head administrator, okay? And some of these schools, one in particular, having decades, right, of failure behind them. But our kind of philosophy was, you know what, you didn't have the support you needed, and now you will. And we're going to help you with those things that you were very weak on. But your commitment to us is you're going to listen, and to their boards is you are going to pay attention. Because we're, like I said, when the board starts to go downhill, the school goes downhill. You have to have constant oversight as a board. And I think that what you lined up gives me that confidence that that's going to happen. So I'll say it one more time. Oh, you know what? I'll save this for my Columbo moment. Okay. All right. Patty tires of me sometimes. I'm so, and come on, look at Santa Fe. Does Santa Fe, what still means a Waldorf school more than Santa Fe, right?
Didn't you finish? For now. Brower?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the founding team, thank you so much for all the work that you put into this. 68 pages of a rebuttal sounds like a lot of work and almost like a charter application in itself. And so I know that you all have taken this seriously. I did not get the chance to go to the community input hearing, but I've read over the information from that. And so I just applaud you for bringing in a application as you have at this moment. I am almost a novice when it comes to Waldorf education, but thankfully I'm much further ahead than I was 7 months ago. When one of my best friends, where I was his instructional coach, I'm an educator and a farmer, and so like Waldorf education really connects to me in different ways, even though it's slightly odd to me in terms of my worldview, just like Montessori is. It's just far away from how I was raised, and what opportunities maybe were allotted to me as a young person. But having a chance to go to a charter school in California, I think it's Northern California near Sacramento, Yuba River Charter School. It was the first charter school in California to be a Waldorf school 20 some odd years ago. And so my friend is the head director now there. So I got a chance to visit that in March. And it helped me demystify a little bit about what education looks like through a Waldorf model. And again, spoke to my heart as a farmer and as an educator. A couple questions I have for you. I don't know if I didn't see this in the application, but apologies. I know you did research on different schools, different charter schools that were Waldorf. How many did you talk to or connect with or learn from directly in a more relational sense as you prepared your application and as you prepared for today?
Can you have a little minute to
Write those down.
write this down? There's one from Chicago.
Mountain Song. I think we had like 11 because
That
we
we
had
talked
like
to directly.
Yeah, and we had 8 applications, and then further conversations like 4 or 5.
Okay.
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah, because I can't.
Yeah. Commissioner Brower, thank you for that question. The reason we had to confer is because we have all done research separately and as a group. So we got a considerable amount of support from the Alliance for Public Waldorf Education. They have over 60 member schools statewide. We also received sample applications from 8 or 9 different Waldorf charter schools nationwide that we researched and looked at how they were doing their things and what could possibly work in New Mexico. And then we had further conversations with the charter school in Paonia, Colorado, the Waldorf Charter School in Paonia, Colorado, several conversations with Mountain Song Community School in Colorado Springs, I believe. They are the school that I spoke of at the community input hearing that has a really robust special ed department. We had some back and forth, mainly through email with Mountain Phoenix Community School, which is another Waldorf charter school in Colorado. And I'm forgetting one. The Ocean Charter?
Yes.
I don't want to say the name in the public record, but there was another school in California. We have done so much Waldorf charter school research that it's all kind of faded into a spectrum, if you will. Does that answer your question adequately?
Yeah, thank you. How many of those, or were any of those ones that converted from private to charter?
Oh, and
Mr. Birds.
we also talked to, we also had an exchange with a school in New Hampshire, which was a private Waldorf school that converted through to a K through 12 charter school. And I believe the one in California as well. One of the candidates that I've been having soft conversations with has been the founding teacher at both Mountain Song and I think Mountain Phoenix. So there is a lot of dialogue, if you will, between Waldorf charter schools nationwide, and a lot of exchange of ideas and a professional development program. So we have a nationwide community of schools to lean on.
Gotcha. Great. I was just curious, and I don't mean to take up all of our time on this, but I was just curious, what did you glean from that in terms of the good, the bad, and the ugly about transitioning from private to charter, and what did you incorporate into your work so far in that respect? And I'd love to hear, just for my own understanding and how you all have taken feedback, what were any alarms or warning signs or things of that nature that you heard from?
I think, thank you. From the school in New Hampshire that we have interviewed, Gathering Waters, we learned that the transition is a process. And that they described to us how it looks behind the scenes is messy. And what is presented to the community looks a lot different than the work going on behind the scenes until, until they had their footing under them. That was my initial impression. And our response to that is to bring in experience that has had a foot in both worlds already, so that even as teachers, we have a lot of candidates. We did a teacher survey in our application. A lot of candidates have taught in both realms. Those are excellent candidates to come into our school, as if everyone involved understands that bridge and we can help each other out.
I have two more things to add, if I may. The common running theme in all the public Waldorf charter schools nationwide was they all stressed the importance of hiring trained Waldorf teachers. If you want fidelity to the Waldorf program, you have to have teachers who have an understanding of what Waldorf education is, because you can bridge Waldorf into the Common Core standards, into state standards. But that way of nurturing a child and meeting an individual is unique to Waldorf. And that is the essence of what makes a Waldorf school. Much more than watercolor paintings and wooden toys and wooden desks. It is the humanity and the human-to-human relationships. So number one, and you will see that in our application, where we have stressed Waldorf training. The second thing that we, and I forgot to mention the school earlier, but the Santa Fe Waldorf School had hired a teacher from Peace Valley, which is a Waldorf charter school in Idaho. She was going to be my child's teacher, and I interviewed her extensively. And her experience was, you do not separate your special ed department from your faculty. Because in that school, in its growing pains, there was this, oh, we are Waldorf and you are not, so you should listen to us. But we know how to do special ed and you don't, and you should listen to us. And so you will see that reflected in our org chart. When we created our teachers council, everybody is represented. And that is why our head looks like a triangle. The head administrator is at the top of the triangle, but the two bases of the triangle are the pedagogical director and the special ed director. So when we organize this in our minds as a system, we are giving equal weight to the entire fabric of the system, because all of these people are meeting the needs of all of our students. There is no separation here. And from the get-go, it has been to create a holistic, unified school where everybody works together towards a common goal.
Thank you very much. Just given the time, I'm not going to, I don't have any good transition to my next question, and then I have a few quick comments. When the school closed at the end of the year in 2023, approximately how many students were enrolled? Was it around 215 or so? Is that where it was? Or how many students were enrolled?
I can answer that. Thanks, Commissioner. When we the end of our final school year, we closed out with 216 students.
That was one off.
And then but for the following year, we had about 160 enrolled at that point.
You had how many enrolled?
160
160
for this,
enrolled.
for this school year that we didn't function.
Gotcha. But yeah, 216. Okay. So again, I was one off.
Yeah. Where'd you get those numbers?
Commissioner Brower,
Did a little research.
Commissioner Brower, was that K through 8,
That was K through 12, I believe, right?
K through 12? Okay.
So,
Pre-K through 12.
okay, pre-K through 12. Gotcha. So my question, your enrollment cap is 208, is that right? And so not having the 9 through 12th grade and the pre-K, that is kind of almost, that's a larger number than what you would have from the previous year, or from the previous school when it was private. So my biggest thing, similar to what others have shared, I think that first off, I think it's just wonderful when we have a room of people that come to talk about the school, and the amount of messages of support that were discussed today. I think that speaks to my heart as a commissioner. I think it's important to see that there are people, there's the public that want to see this to some degree. And I think it's like really great to hear that. Even if a lot of these folks are in the family, so to speak, who have a connection to the school that was closed or that closed. And so I think I just applaud that. I think that is great. It still takes a lot of work to get people to show up on a day at 9 a.m. and to hear us talk for about 3 hours about this opportunity. And so I just want to thank everybody for that. I really appreciate the overview of what you did to connect with other community members outside of your realm of proximity. I think that's really important. And I applaud you for that as well. Waldorf, and I hope I don't offend any people. I know, what do you call, I know Montessorians is what you call people in Montessori. What are Waldorfians? Okay. Yeah, well, I'm just going to go with what you shared. So people out, I don't take offense to this, but it's different. It's odd. It's not the norm for a lot of people who are in public education or private education for that matter, or parochial education. It's like another thing outside of those trifecta of opportunities for students. So I think that is a big burden that you all have to like move out of and push out of the oddity of like something that's just so different for families, especially the families that you have to sell, for lack of a better way of saying this. You have to sell that to families, in my opinion, who are furthest away from school choice options. And that's a big burden. I don't know, and again, don't take offense to this, but I'm just playing it out. Like I grew up on a dairy farm. Farming is still in my bones. I still do it each day. I did it this morning. Going to the farmer's market is like awesome. I think that's great that you went to that. Truth be told, farmer's market it's not where I'm a man of the people. So like, that's not where the people go. That's not everyone in Santa Fe. That's not a cross section at all. That's kind of far away from a lot of people's experience in Santa Fe. And I know you all know that. I'm not trying to like beat you up on that. You go where people are going to, where commerce centers are, those sorts of things. I think the challenge is to get out into communities and talk to people who are furthest away from even thinking about this as an option, let alone school choice in general. Many of our people don't even know that there are choices that are available that are from the public funds. Similar to what you shared, Commissioner, charter schools is still like not completely demystified for many of our people. And so I think the challenge is for me, like, is to like do more of that, reaching out to people who are further away from even understanding this, and having to sit down and tell them like, who is this Rudolf Steiner guy? Why did this come out of like Germany? How is this connected to New Mexico's culture and to the experience that maybe students could really glean from? And again, I'm not saying I'm not in your shoes, so take this for what it's worth. I don't know all the immense work that you've done, but I just am thinking about myself from a parent who is so far away from Waldorf education. And how can you do that so that we can have a school that is really reaching students of all backgrounds in Santa Fe and can see the beauty of this. And that's the thing that I feel really is essential for all of our charter schools, that it represents the population of the community in which we're serving. And it should and I think this school is needing to do that. And I think New Mexico is a relational state. It's like the most relational place I've ever been. I've only been 2 places, but Maryland and here, it's definitely more relational than Maryland. And I think that there is a great opportunity to meet with people, meet on their terms in their communities, and places where you can talk with them and really build their understanding about why they were going to say yes to Waldorf into the school. It's so hard to do that when you get approved and then you start to recruit in January, February. If you don't already have a bunch of people who are already really connected at this stage, it's just so hard to do that. It's not impossible, but it's like hard to do that. And I think it would put you further faster in that process. And you would have the school that you hope for in terms of having the right, a balanced student population and really connecting with all students. So, I just want to share, thank you so much for all the work. I'm still not completely 100% on my decision. I know I need to make that soon. But I think that regardless of what it is, I feel like you have a great team. I think having more people who may not be Waldorfians to help sit down with you and co-create, whether it's this year, to collaborate, whether it's this year or maybe the next time. I did read the Santa Fe New Mexican article that you all said, after this day, you plan to reapply if it doesn't go into your favor this year. I believe you said that. I think that's who was quoted. And so I think if that's the decision, I want you to hold yourself to account on that thinking, that mindset, because I do think there's an opportunity here. I think that the big challenge is to make sure that the school is representative of all of Santa Fe. Thank you.
So, thanks. And I'm not going to I echo a lot of what folks have said here, but and I'm like Commissioner Brower, sitting on the fence right now. It's difficult. I'm a little familiar with Waldorf. There was one in Princeton, not far from where I lived in New Jersey. So I am familiar, but I've also here in New Mexico seen the challenges of Montessori schools as they've come into the charter world. And it's been rough because you want to honor the mission of the Montessori, and that blending is rocky and ugly, and sometimes it creates tension with the authorizer that you don't want, but you're obligated to fulfill the public education pieces. And part of my challenge is it appears to me that the Waldorf model creates an even bigger hurdle than a Montessori in some areas. So that to me is a challenge. But I want to tag onto a little bit of what Commissioner Burt was talking about. And I wholeheartedly agree. You shouldn't have a head administrator and then make the board. But I am very much in support of, once that board is created, which, thank you, you've done that now, you're working hard on that. But that head administrator is critical for the implementation year, because there's a big lift. And when the planning phase comes in and all of this has been created, and then you just stick someone in the middle of it and they haven't been able to be part of the conversation, that makes it even messier. So, and I know it's difficult to ask someone to commit that kind of time when they're not getting funded for that. That's, I acknowledge that. It's the stress of the charter community in New Mexico. before any of us were here, there was a federal grant that was startup money. So from the time you did your application, the federal monies came in, and it was big money. And that was incredibly supportive. It doesn't exist any longer. The only thing that exists is CSP, and that comes in after, and it's way less money. So the opportunity is less. So can you talk to me a little bit about how you envision being able to hopefully bring someone on board during that implementation year, and what that might look like? Because you also, I'll tag something else along with that. Because you mentioned hiring staff and knowing that staff needs Waldorf experience. Presuming that head administrator would certainly need it too. And we've seen this with Montessori schools, the difficulty in finding Montessori trained, New Mexico licensed faculty. And even, national searches, you're asking people to move to the most expensive city in New Mexico, and teacher salaries aren't difficult to live on and to move. So can you talk a little bit about what that looks like?
So we are well aware that it'll take some time to hire an head administrator, which is why we have identified an interim head administrator to run with many of those duties while we hire the final person and have a transition period when they both overlap for a seamless transition. In front of you are represented both those roles, the interim or acting president of the board and the interim head administrator. We want to move on hiring a head administrator quickly, and we're going to lean heavily on our networks and our networks. To the point of hiring Waldorf trained teachers, we are a little bit lucky in that regard, in that the former school had a whole roster of trained teachers, many of whom have gone into the public school system and already got their PED licensure. You heard from one member today who has a licensure in early childhood education and special ed. You heard at the community hearing from a member who is a trained Waldorf teacher and now has a K-8 teaching license. So we have had several subject teachers and class teachers and general education teachers that bridge this divide already. So, we're going to lean heavily into that. And we've been networking with them already. And many of them are interested in teaching in a public Waldorf school. There's actually palpable excitement among the teachers to be able to do this in a public education model outside of the private model. I'm going to tell a little joke to your point that we are odd. We are definitely odd. The affectionate slogan of the private Waldorf school was powered by gnomes. And my joke was we should update that to, this is a very nerdy joke, to powered by gnomon. Does any of you know what a gnomon is? The gnomon is the stick on a sundial that casts its shadow to tell the time. And that kind of perfectly encapsulates what we are trying to be. We do acknowledge that we are odd, but we are confident we can find our place in the public education system. And a lot of the pieces that we need to put that puzzle together and build it already exist in Santa Fe. It is a great opportunity to pull it all together and braid the rope and make it really strong.
Okay, and I appreciate that, but I still need a little bit of clarity. What's the time frame when you're saying you've appointed an interim head administrator?
Because we
So
have a calendar.
what are you looking at in terms of that interim head administrator? Are you starting that school year, or is it just for the implementation year? That's where I'm kind of confused.
While they are looking, I know our date is November 30th.
November 30th for what?
For the head of school hire.
Of the implementation.
So
Of the
if you
implementation.
were of the implementation year.
Yes, yes, Commissioner.
And
So the offer would be made, but there's no funding for that person. There, the offer is for August of 26. Whatever.
We would be working on private fundraising, grant writing in the interim to get funding if we don't get the CSP grant.
So it's so there's a okay. So there is still just that possibility, because if you don't get private funding, you're not going to be able to do that.
We will not be able to pay them a salary December 1st. Is that what you're asking? If we don't have
During the
money-
implementation.
During the
yeah.
implementation, yeah. If we don't have money to pay them, we will not have the money to pay them a salary. That is true. This is why our first step is to become an approved Board of Finance, so we can start obtaining money, have a bank account, and start making financial
Right.
transactions.
No, I was asking for the plan for getting the money.
Oh, the money, not the people? Because you talked about hiring teachers and hiring the
No, not
administrator.
teachers. I'm fully aware that you wouldn't be hiring teachers until the school year was starting.
Mhm.
Their offer wouldn't be, but the head administrator, my comment was, head administrators, we have found is critically important to be an integral part of the implementation year planning.
Mhm.
So what was your plan on obtaining a head administrator during the implementation year so that they would be part of the conversation in that implementation year planning?
Okay, so the plan to hire a head administrator is in our application on
I
page
get that.
166.
But my question was, if there's not funding, if
Yes.
you don't get the CSP grant, is there a contingency plan? You know, not, I'm fine.
So we
fine.
have looked at other Waldorf-specific grants as alternates to the CSP grant.
Okay,
And one of them is called the Rudolph Steiner
RSF Social Finance.
RSF Social Finance, that offer loans and or grants to Waldorf schools and organizations. So we are looking into alternative methods of funding certain key positions for the implementation year as a contingency if we don't get the CSP grant.
so along with the CSP, talking a little bit about the CSP grant and on the lines of concerns about the diversity, I appreciate the fact that you said you wanted to offer transportation the first year, but that once again is contingent on the CSP grant. And I think that transportation piece is a key element to be able to reach out to those communities that don't know there's a choice. Those are the folks that you want to bring in. And if you don't get the CSP grant, you're not going to be able to do that. So that's going to change the landscape of the school significantly. So
We will
it's
have-
that's one of my concerns.
We will
Of
have
not being
to-
able to offer, the possibility of not being able to offer that.
Yeah.
Because you can do as much reach out, but so many of those families are gonna say, I can't get my kid there. And if the CSP grant money isn't there, you're gonna have to tell those families,
we don't have a bus for you.
right,
So we've been brainstorming creative solutions to that problem, and we've considered doing some sort of community carpooling. We have access to 4 small vans. So we are kind of brainstorming our way around that because we are well aware. Our first preference would obviously be to contract a school bus and do this very simply. We've talked to a neighboring charter school with partnering with them to reduce costs, perhaps, of transportation for both of us. We are aware of the funding constraints of starting a charter school in New Mexico, and we are heavily considering alternative creative options on how to solve these problems. I don't have a plan for you right now, but it's not that we haven't given them thought.
but please be aware that there are the guidelines in transporting public school children.
We are aware.
So,
Yes, we are aware.
okay, I appreciated that triangle, representing the, special education support. When I read your budget, and I went in the application, you talked about a special ed director, special ed teacher. Greatly appreciated the fact that, want to fund for the part-time social worker. I didn't see that reflected in your budget entirely. And that's a concern. The application say these are all what we're going to build out with. And then when I look at your budget, the funding isn't there. So, I have a concern about being able to do what you say you want to do, because that budget doesn't reflect it.
Jess, do you want to talk to that about contract services?
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. We do in year one, the budget reflects a part-time special education director. It's a half of an FTE for the proposed 80 students.
Okay, hold on. In that budget UCOA, where do I see that?
Well, this is where us wanting to construct the budget ourselves just to fully understand it.
No, I'm looking at the budget that you submitted.
Yep.
That's what we vote on.
Okay, so we're in function 2100, object 51100. And we have.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
We have, so function 2100. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. And then the 51100 line, or the 1211, we have a half FTE, a part-time special education director starting in year one. They become full-time by year 3 when our enrollment increases to the 198. And then we contract interventionists. I'm sorry, we don't. We salary part-time special ed interventionists too. So that we have a total of a full FTE in year 1 for the special education department. And I was saying that some of the feedback we received is that we may have used the wrong objects and line items as we created this budget ourselves without a lot of influence. So that came to us, maybe we put it in the wrong spot on the budget.
Okay. One last thing. In the application, you talked about how you're in a more fortunate situation because the building already existed. So there were a lot of things there. So can you talk to me about, because I'm not exactly sure, taking over another facility, is the foundation going to donate whatever things, I don't know if it's desks, equipment, all of that, is that being donated to the school?
I can answer that. It will be leased for a below market rate. The foundation will be supporting the school, and there will be some, changing hands of money for use of the facility, but it will be at a rate that the charter school can afford. And
What about
the equipment, same thing for
So
everything.
everything, so
Correct.
talk to me a little bit about the relationship between the foundation and the school.
Well, the foundation doesn't exist yet, but we can talk about the future foundation that we hope will exist. Right now, there's just the former school, and it's sort of in this waiting to see what happens situation. If a charter is granted, that 501c3 entity that used to operate the Santa Fe Waldorf School will become a supporting foundation for the charter school. It will own the campus, it will own the equipment, and it will lease them to the charter school at a rate that the charter school can afford to pay based on the reimbursement rates from the state.
So is the anticipation that that foundation will be a component unit of the audit of the new school?
the anticipation is that it will be a supporting foundation for the charter school. And it will not be part of, I mean, it's a separate legal entity. It's a nonprofit.
I'm aware of what a foundation is, but my question is, if it's going to be set up, is that foundation going to be a component unit of the audit of the school? Because foundations usually are, but I don't know how this foundation is being set up. That's where I have a question.
Right. And we don't either because it doesn't exist yet and it can't exist until the school exists as a legal matter. And so we will be figuring that out. I don't believe that the foundation will be essentially a landlord, just like other charter schools who lease space from landlords. And so
Their foundations are component units of their audits. of
okay.
Public
Well,
schools.
when we have a foundation, we will definitely learn all of that. Right now, it is hypothetical. And so we can't write about a hypothetical foundation, but we've hired an attorney that specializes in charter education law, and we know the basics, and we will certainly incorporate it in all the ways that it needs to by the law. It just doesn't exist yet.
Commissioner Ingham?
First off, I want to say thank you for your architect analogy, being the one person on the board who is a contractor, and I'm very, very familiar with that relationship. And so I just want to say I thank you guys for your articulate and well thought out responses. To me, that gives me a level of confidence that you have considered almost, you've been able to answer articulately every question we've had. And so that gives me a level of confidence. I think that you're hamstrung, right? We find this in a lot of situations by the fact that you can't make any commitments until you are chartered, and so it makes everything very, very difficult. And I think the two components of that, one of them is that you can't tell your you can't tell your community that you're actually a school, and that this is all theoretical, and that everybody, when they're talking about their kids' education, when it's theoretical, it's like, I don't know, until you're real, I can't really make a determination. And also, with your head administrator, you can talk and you can network and you can't do anything. And I would hope that this model seems to have so much support within that community that you could attract somebody that would be willing to talk to you about how they are, what their salary looks like in the first initial year. So in that, I would say I would be interested in giving you that opportunity. So I would suggest or would be friendly to a motion that would provide you to be on to get past this hurdle with significant conditions. And the two I can think of right away are that, one, you can come up with a head administrator that you can work into your budget and that it could make sense. And two, that during that time, in the very near future, I think one of the big elephants in the room is that the reality is we work on a lottery admissions. And I think one of the concerns is that your community would, because there's not been the outreach, then that community will take up all of the spots immediately in the school, and there wouldn't be any applicants. And then once they're in, they're in. And then the reality is then you're going to have a difficult time getting that diversity. So my condition would be that once you have that, that you have a charter, a conditional charter, that you come back to us within a short time with a list of potential people that are interested, that are of the communities And I'm not saying that, obviously it's a lottery, so whoever gets in, gets in. And I think that's what we need to see, is that actually you have maybe a waiting list of people that are ready to apply for your school. And if I saw that, I think I would be amenable to that. So that would be my suggestion, is that we approve this with significant and timely conditions. That would be my
So can I just say something
certainly.
to that? As a charter, any public school, they are obligated to hire a head administrator. We don't really have the authority to put a condition. Correct. And the lottery concern, I feel, well, we're very challenged, and we can't put a condition on that a school has to come back with a list of kids to see.
Oh, no, my proposal is a list of proposed candidates or a list of people that are willing to say they would apply.
Yeah, we can't. Right.
Okay.
They're obligated to do the lottery system using the guidance that we have with our lottery system. That they have to do. But for us to put a condition on that they would have to come back with a list of the prospective. Well, number one, if they give us a list of the prospective people, I don't think we want to make that public, number one. So that would be hard. But for us to say, you have to come back with a list of applicants. I don't know what that gets us.
Okay, my naivete.
That's okay. That's
And
okay.
you know,
But
but
I understand what you're trying to get at.
and so I'm hoping you guys with more experience can come up with a motion that would be appropriate for that. And
It's really
okay,
challenged with that.
okay, understand.
We are.
But that would be my
get it.
preference.
I fully get it. That's, that's where I'm being tugged.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Is the concern that there will not be enough potential students to form a lottery? It's the diversity concern. Okay. Can I speak to that?
You can, but I don't. We're not going to we can't put the condition on. So if you
Understood.
want to address it, so.
I wanted to address something that Commissioner Carrillo and Bert both spoke to, which was in the very beginning, when the four of us volunteers began this process, and none of us were on the administration of the former school. We were all parents and teachers, but we were not involved in its leadership. We did say, if we build it, they will come. That was sort of a mantra that we had, and we knew that we were not, that our former population from the former school was not enough to make the school work well, and that we would lose people from the population of the former school by choosing a charter. And that was a choice that was made knowingly, because those of us on this team and those who have showed up in support, wanted a more accessible, equitable, Waldorf-inspired educational offering. And so there are people from the former community who are more purists, who want a different kind of education that will not put their kids in this school. And we know that. As personal experience, all of us have had halfway through the process, Jaita and I realized our children, just because of the money and the logistics, they'll be 1 year too old to ever go to this school. So we've been doing it for the future of, just because we believe in this. And the last thing I'll say is that I've applied both of my children to all the charter schools. There's great options, Thrive, ATC, Mandela. We were number 200 at ATC and 150 at Mandela. So I believe, just in personal experience, the demand is there, and we plan to be a place for that demand to go, so that kids don't just sit on a waiting list at the great charter options we have. And that's it.
We'll just relative to what, Bossler, right? Ms. Bossler said, I know the schools you're speaking of, like Mandela and HEC, massive waiting lists, but Thrive also. Because obviously you're gonna be a K-8. So, in looking at waiting lists for charters with that grade level, I talk to Sean all the time.
They're full.
Because I love that school. So I'm always asking him, because people are coming to me, please, Steve, I want to get into Thrive. Do you have connections? What do I need to do? It's like, let me call Sean, see if there's a space. Sometimes there'll be a space and I say, you need to call Sean
In the middle of
today.
the year.
Yeah, you need to call him today. And sometimes they will and sometimes they won't.
Yeah.
So the idea, and this came up yesterday too with Equip. Market determines need. There's a need. There's clearly a need, or there wouldn't be these massive waiting lists for these successful schools.
Right. Both of my kids were on waiting list at Thrive, a 5th grader and a rising 7th grader.
And there's waiting lists at, how many kids want to get into Rick Gormley and Carlos Gilbert? And, it's just, they want to be in high-performing elementaries. So, no, I appreciate very much what you're saying. And also, I think it's unfortunate that there are some parents that are going to pull their kids because it's not as purist as they want it to be, which is really certainly not what any of the 10 of us are about at all. So thank you.
Well, and it's not what we're about either.
Yeah, no, I get
We
that.
made a deliberate decision.
Yeah, no, I get that completely. So Patty? Extra motion, can we take a break to work with Julia to do so? Well, I know there's one right there, but I'm thinking of conditions also, and I want to see, I know what's there. But there's something that I want, and I think that other people are concerned about, it's not there.
We're gonna take a 5-minute break.
No, absolutely, but, Cindy, is this an adequate distance? You can hear me well, I'm not muffled and we're all good?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, it's my pleasure. So I'm ready to make a motion, but before I do, I just want to, there's just a note that I made here because there was a comment that came in from the letters and it just really kind of, I never use phrases like this, but made my heart sing. I don't know what got into me today. Yesterday was too much caffeine and I was a bit of a jerk, and today I'm all sappy. It was in the letters and it said, I chauffeured him, that's why. So all of his nice stuff rubbed off on me. Oh man, I can't find the note, but it was basically the joy of being a human being. It was one of the letters that was read. And that just really struck me is like kind of core to what this school is all about, Okay, so I'm ready to almost make a motion. You and I would encourage people to do, not here necessarily because we do this anyway, but people like, and I'm looking at you, Margaret, but people like Inez and people from the press and the public, read the Charter School Act. Fully understand why there are state charters, the innovation, the opportunity for parents and for kids and communities to expand and to grow. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's right here, and it's why we do this work. And I would remind everybody to read the first part of the Charter School Act, and it's why we're here. Okay? So that having been said, and there's no Columbo moment, let me go ahead and bring the motions up. It's going to be over here. Here we go. Regarding Sun Mountain Community School, I move that the Public Education Commission approve the application for Sun Mountain Community School for a 6-year term, 2025-2031, which includes a planning year prior to opening. During the planning year and prior to commencing operations, Sun Mountain Community School must 1, negotiate a contract with the Public Education Commission. 2, obtain standing as an approved Board of Finance. 3, secure a facility that has e-occupancy. And 4, complete the planning year checklist. I moved that the Public Education Commission approve the application for Sun Mountain Community School for a 6 six-year term, 2025, 2031. This is the approved with conditions. Oh, whoops. You can tell I don't make these motions all the time. Here we go. The Sun Mountain Community School is approved on the condition that the school provide, I know I humor you. I'm glad that I'm able to do that, Patty. Sun Mountain Community School is approved on the condition, and this is really important because you heard it from all of us, that the school provide a plan for outreach and possible options for transportation in the first submission of the implementation year checklist. The outreach shall be targeted outside of the previous Waldorf community and show adequate outreach to the full Santa Fe community, including possible partners and tribal communities to assist in outreach. A plan for adequate outreach and plan for transportation shall be incorporated in the charter contract.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Carrillo and a second by Commissioner Beck. Commissioner Burt?
Thanks. And I actually really approve like the creativity of getting to this. So I'm grateful for just like minds melding and trying to come to solutions. That being said, I do think you women are the right people in the right place. I think it's the wrong time. I'm gonna explain myself. I genuinely have an enormous amount of confidence in the work you've already done previously, the work you've done on this application. It makes me feel like, you know what, I do believe I have confidence that you could run a really great charter school here in Santa Fe. I do believe that about you all. I think this application made me feel is more reflective of finding a space for these students who loved and adored their school and are displaced right now. I do see an enormous amount of openness and growth in, okay, if we can go public, then we can include a bigger group in Santa Fe. We can include more students. But I do not see that mindset reflected in the initial writing of this application. And so for me, because of, and like I said, I think the optics of me approving a charter that was just very recently a failed private school is just too great for me to be able to defend without saying they did all of this outreach to people outside their community. And I have zero doubt that there's going to be an enormous amount of students that were not Waldorfians before that are going to be again this time. And my concern of the lottery filling up with people who already know about your school is just too great to approve it this year. But I genuinely would love to support this school next year and have that year of connecting with nonprofits in another part of town, connecting with people where they're at. I mean, Santa Fe has, I think it's like the highest per capita of nonprofits in like the country. And so I would love to see those connections not being hope, but being, we did them. We actually did them. Here's the data. And that way I can go, and if a legislature who is not friendly to charters is like, what did you guys just do? I have to be able to be like, this is actually the spirit of charters, is to provide more open access to everyone. And I just don't feel like I can do that today. But I do believe in the four of you and in your board that you can, I believe you would get there, and I could easily support this school in the future.
Commissioner Brower.
Thank you, thank you, Chair Gibson. Thank you, Commissioner Burt. I echo similar thoughts at this point. I think you all have done a tremendous job in this process. I think your hearts and your smarts are all in the right place. And now I've taken the last hour and a half thinking about where am I at on this decision, and I have to come to a decision. I really do think that the next step for you all is to take another year and to really fill this room with community organizations that will insulate a little bit of some of the thoughts that we have had around like who will be coming to the school, who is the school serving. Like you can only move at the speed of trust with the community at large. And I think if we want to have a charter school that is Waldorfian, we need to really pay attention to getting the right people involved in the school, getting the right students, quote unquote, and really having a very large, like tent, a large Waldorf tent for all students who see this as an option. I know that another year or a potential not getting the news that you want feels bad, and it's not a good consolation prize. But I do think that there is space for this school. I still think, and just so I'm honest and earnest with my own opinions on other decisions we made this week too, that I'm very passionate about making sure that we have true, a true cross-section of the community here. Much of the same that you shared, Commissioner Burke, you know, especially just the transitioning of this school, converting the school from private to a charter school, for lack of a better way of saying that, there's optics around that. And I think that there's just a really great opportunity to move at the speed of trust building with the community so that more people can see this as an option, and more students in the long run will be served by an excellent education.
Mr. Taylor.
So, my view really on this is that you all understand the importance of this equity issue. I mean, that's been a universal concept and feedback to you all from this commission. But I believe that you have an implementation year. You've got 6 months or so before your lottery. And I feel like that's ample time for you to really get out into the community and make your case known, especially in light of the concerns that this commission has, you know? So I think the condition that was put into the motion is addresses that, and so that's my feeling on it.
Commissioner Beck.
Yeah, I concur with Commissioner Taylor. That's the reason why we put that condition in. I think you're very sensitive to our concerns, and I think you'll take care of it.
Mr. Ingham.
Yeah, I just want to address the optics issue. I think that's on us. And that we are the mouthpiece of the charter school community. And that if there's a problem with optics, we need to address it. I think that the school will. I have confidence that they will. And that when their lottery is finalized and they have a real diverse community, which I'm just going to say I'm confident they're going to have it. And when we speak of diversity, diversity doesn't have to have a real quota in it. I hate that part. And so I just want a free and fair lottery, and new people have an opportunity to access this education, and new families that, so I guess I just feel like we when we address the legislature and the community at large, we need to dispel that notion that we just approved. If they're approved, it feels like to me we gave a real careful consideration of this, and that I'm willing to defend that decision in those realms. So if somebody wants to knock us for their perceptions, I'm willing to make that argument. I want to say that for me is not what I would base it on.
So I'm going to say that I was on the fence as long as Commissioner Brower, and I have these very lingering concerns about, because I don't think the optics, we're not the mouthpiece of charter schools. We're not. We speak in favor of, and people talk to us, and whatever this decision is that this commission makes, I will support 100%, because that's what we do. I don't go off and say, yeah, but I voted no, or I voted yes. This is whatever it is, I will back it 100%. But I do believe that the timing is challenging to me, and that the opportunity for those families that were in the school, they already know about the school, and the opportunity for them to get into that lottery quicker is, I think there needs to be a pause before this opens as a true public option. I helped craft this condition, but I can't 100% support it, because I know what goes into the implementation here and the expectation for all that additional outreach. I don't think can happen, and can happen well. If we could have a 2-year implementation time, I think that would be great. But I do think that this was more of we can turn this into a public school, and we can turn this around. So I'm just not there at this point in time. Commissioner Creel?
I understand all your concerns. I really do. And I don't agree, but I understand your concerns, and I've really heard them. I concur with Commissioner Taylor that so much of this can be completed during the implementation year. And that the minute you pull the trigger, and or if we pull the trigger, then, and I said this kind of thing to Patty earlier, that provenance unfolds. All these things start to happen when the decision is made. All these, whether it could be all of a sudden in this national Waldorf network, there's like, oh my God, they're opening a public charter, they're opening a public school, a public Waldorf in Santa Fe. It's like, let's go, right? You know, I mean, I think stuff like that happens, and with whether it's, you know, a school that we approved yesterday, finding the property that they really want to have on the west side. And we actually made that a condition this time, because, you know, Thrive didn't want to be over there behind Aries, right? I mean, it's diametrically opposed to where they want to be, but it was the only space available in Santa Fe. You have the blessing of having that space not far from Thrive. But I think, I just think this can happen. I think the time is now to strike while the iron's hot. I don't want the Santa Fe public school community to miss this opportunity, and for another year of kids, especially at the very early years, to miss. Somebody spoke about how their kids were only in kinder here. One of the speakers, and how that was so formative for them when they went on to another school, or when the school closed. And I just don't want another year of kids to miss that opportunity. So I hear the concerns, and that's why I think the conditions are appropriate here.
Commissioner Beck, roll call.
Commissioner Ingham,
Yes.
Commissioner Burt,
No.
Commissioner Manus,
Yes.
Commissioner Brower,
No.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Chair Gibson,
No.
Vice Chair Carrillo,
Yes.
Secretary Beck, yes. There are 5 votes for, 3 votes against. The motion passes.
It's going to show 50 years. Really like that.
I'm hungry.
I said,
Says till 1 for lunch.
Thank
For
you,
people-
Commissioners.
For people on Zoom, if you would like to sign up for public comment for Sacramento School of Science and Engineering, The chat is now open. I currently have Craig Dacus, Erica Garcia, Mayor Susan Payne, Shannon Wright, Justin Purvis, and Joe Burton.